Hello and welcome, dear sisters and brothers. Welcome to Catholic SG Radio. This is The Faith Perspective with me, Andre Achak, and Beatrice de Cruz. Now, The Faith Perspective is an opportunity for us to look and examine and also discuss trending issues or events happening in the world and in the church. Now,
so how are we as people of faith to respond and find God's wisdom in these situations?
Yeah.
So this is something that we discuss on The Faith Perspective, right? Another question is, what is the church's guidance in the choices we have to make? So today we'd like to look at an interesting aspect of our lives. And it's something that we actually respond to or react to instinctively, but we don't put much thought into it until a situation arises and we feel that we or a member of our family or community could be hurt or that their life is in danger. So this is a very serious topic that we're talking about.
It is.
Yep.
It is. Now, today we have with us Kevin Ho, and Kevin is co-chair of the Security Subcommittee for the Pope Francis visit, and he is also the near past chair of the Archdiocesan Emergency Response Operations Council, or also better known as ARROW. Now, not many of us think about safety and security when we go to a mall or we take a walk in the park or when we take public transport, much less when we come to church, when we come to worship the Lord and look for a place of solace and quietness and get away from the challenges of life. Not many of us might see the reason why we should be concerned about safety and security when we are at church. And before we talk to Kevin, Kev, I just want to ask you, from a Christian perspective, right? Can we look at safety and security from that perspective and the right to protect ourselves? Is there such a thing?
Well, I mean, we have in civil law and, in the way most governments go, we have this thing called laws that protect the person, right? Within the Singapore context, being a former crown colony, we got most of our laws from, of course, the British. And there is this set of laws called the Penal Code. And the Penal Code came by way of British India. And it was a system of criminal codes that were designed to, I guess, keep the criminal elements of the population in check, right? So within the Penal Code itself, let's say sections 96 to 106 in the Penal Code, in the Singapore Penal Code, it addresses the right to defense of persons, of yourself, obviously, of others, and even of property. So those 10 clauses, statutes, actually govern the use of force in defense of others and yourself, and even property as well.
Right.
Yeah. Of course, one of the things, the key drivers of something like that is also proportionality, right? Someone whips out, pencil to poke you, you don't pull out a gun, for example, right?
True.
So there is a level of proportionality. And guess what? The beauty of this whole penal code system, it obviously came from somewhere.
Yeah.
I think it doesn't take a stretch of imagination to see how it came from the British mainland itself, their own constitution, and then I suppose you could trace it back to the Magna Carta.
That's right.
Right?
Yes.
In inequity, and the Magna Carta came from somewhere. So you take one more step to that, and you tell yourself, where did it come from? It has to come from moral teachings of somewhere. In this case, it actually came from the Catholic Church.
Wow.
It did. Yes, that's right.
Oh.
Not many of us know that.
Cool.
Yes, that's right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've been talking about, you mentioned
Proportionality.
Proportionality, that's right. So how should our response be to will the good of another?
Wow, that's a very deep... so the will to will the good of another is actually intrinsic and inherent in each Catholic, each Christian, actually. One of the things that is enshrined in our own moral teachings of the Church, and for some of us who actually use it, there's this very venerable living document called the Catechism of the Catholic Church.
Oh yeah, CCC.
Yes, the CCC. So today it exists in digital form.
Yeah.
I think it has its early genesis in I think about 400 plus years ago in some original document, social teachings of the Church, and then it sort of evolved and it's as a living document. And if anybody were to search for CCC references on, let's say, right to defense, right, you will find quite a few. But the one that is really important to us is this entry, CCC 2265. That's how many statutes we have.
Wow.
Actually, it's more than that. But 2265, okay? 2265 talks about the right to defense being not just a responsibility or a right, but also a grave duty. Yeah. So here's the thing. Here's the crunch. The word grave, when it's used within a Catholic context, has serious implications that if you don't do it willingly, then there's real I guess, spiritual significance of the negative sort for you,
That's right.
So,
there are implications, right?
So grave duty means that if you see something happening and you don't do it, you're gravely responsible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you just follow from that, then therefore we all have a responsibility to look out for each other. It's not just right to defense, I mean, and one of the things about right to defense is also, like, for example, in the most extreme case, you have to defend life and limb, defend somebody, even defend property from being burned, for example. And, and then there's an aggressor in front of you. The intention should always be to stop that person. Not to kill, not to harm, not to maim. The intention must always be to stop.
Right.
And actually it translates to how even our own state resource works. I used to be a volunteer police officer for many years. And we used to have a saying in our emergency response teams, those tactical teams that I used to be part of. There's a saying, it's called stop the killing. So in an emergency situation where, for example, and this is really extreme, active gunman, or, someone is really violent, and the police are on scene, the intention is to stop the person in order to stop the killing, not to kill the person. So even our state resources have it right from a moral standpoint.
Yes.
Also.
Yes. Okay, so with putting that in as our context, right? I just want to shift just a little bit. In a few weeks' time, Pope Francis is going to be in Singapore, right? So can you share with us, without giving away too much, also, how can we respond to safety and security when the Holy Father is here for his apostolic visit?
Obviously, if you look at the wider world and the world that we live in right now, right, we find there are polarized thinking, and we find sometimes that there is extreme intentions that come from that polarized thinking as well. And there are people who want to impose their version of their own faith on others, whether forcibly or whatnot. So there is this risk of danger as well. And I think with any large event, whether regardless of the Holy Father being here or not, any large event, they carry security risk as well.
Yes.
It's not just a simple someone willing or intending to cause harm. It could be a simple case of panic situation, and then there's a stampede. You've seen what happened to Korea, right?
Even if it's just a smoke.
Yeah, just a smoke, and once you cause stampede, people get hurt or worse, right?
Correct.
So the principle governing thought behind every single individual really is, well, when we think of contributing, we think of looking out for each other. And therefore, if there is, and we need to have that sense of awareness around us where we think if we can help someone, we help someone. So from that broad level, if we drill down a bit further, obviously there are many, many volunteers that have stepped up for this papal apostolic visit. Right? I think we have about 5,000 volunteers or so.
That's right. Yeah.
And if you are present in, let's say, the papal mass, then the question really is, are we aware, alert enough to be able to look out for things that could pose a serious danger, like smoke coming out of a toilet, simple stuff, right? Fire safety. Of course, if one comes across someone who's suspicious, you just escalate it up. And then, we have state resource around as well.
Yes.
So from that safety, security viewpoint, we're covered actually by police, and all our friends from the government who have stepped in to also assist with safety and security.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I must say, every individual, and going back to this grave duty thing again, is that there is a real reason why the church deems it a grave duty to look out for each other, as in from a safety, security,
perspective
viewpoint. Simply because Thomas Aquinas says, I think he puts it very clearly, the the evil is the privation of good. Or you want to use modern language, everywhere there's a deprivation of good or goodness, then evil exists. Evil fills that vacuum where there is no good.
Yeah.
So the point here is this: each of us serve a good within our family members, within our family core group, within the community, within our church, in anywhere we go. As long as we are part of some community, we serve some good.
Right.
And while we are willing the good of others, and given no one's perfect, but we try our best. If, let's say, if we were to follow literally this thing about turn the other cheek,
Yeah.
right? But if we unnecessarily let's say, something happen to us or someone, an aggressor kill us, for example, okay, this extreme, then we are taken off the board in life. The good that we continue to give today and for the years to come, the decades to come, to our families, to our communities,
It's
is
been
gone.
shortened, yeah.
It's gone.
Yeah, it's taken away,
Yeah.
actually.
So once you are put in a position where you are not here anymore, the good that you can give is gone. Isn't that a privation of goodness?
Yeah. Maybe think of it that way, yes.
So we have every reason to continue living, to be able to will the good of another, as you say, Beatrice. And the question is, how do you do it?
Yeah.
You have to work in community, you volunteer, and you look out for each other. Simply put, right? The skills by which you look out for each other, that's another thing altogether. Aero does the training on
That's right.
things like topsis, how to spot terrorist, extreme behaviors and all that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So what can we do for those of us who are going to be there, right, in person
At the stadium?
At the stadium. Yeah. How would you like to see us, cooperate and help each other in very concrete ways? And let's say, as you mentioned, if we notice something, I guess first is being aware, right, of our surroundings, not just like
Yes.
getting into the mood and then, forgetting about everything else.
Getting into the mood
It's
is
good. It's
yeah.
good.
But yeah, also being aware.
Correct,
I think
correct.
having
The
this
awareness.
sense of awareness
Correct.
as well is
yeah.
important.
Yeah. So let's say we notice something, then what are some of the concrete ways that we can, help each other or even notify someone?
Well, I think the government has done a great job in educating members of public at large. You've seen those posters that say you see something strange,
Suspicious.
you see something, you say something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So very simply, if anything that really arouses your suspicion or you really you feel very uncomfortable, and trust your gut, right? And it's okay to have false positives because we have security people around,
That's right.
our own, and we have the police as well. So there is an escalation process. Usually it goes like this, you see something strange, you escalate up to someone wearing a black t-shirt that says security.
Yeah.
They will radio back to control room. Actually, that's where I'll be together with the rest of my team and the medical team as well as the stadium team as well.
Right.
And then the police is next door in their own separate command center, and we will confer with each other and then see who responds. If it's a crowd control issue, obviously it will be our security people because we have been training them on bedside manner. And look, this is an apostolic visit, right?
Yes.
It's not a military training camp, right? So
Well said, yeah.
we always tell, and we do have trainings with our security team on Mondays and Saturdays as well. And we always inculcate that sense of having the moral high ground when you deal with people, no matter how frustrated you can be, right?
Correct. It's always from the pastoral view of things, right? And if it's pastoral, it's for the good of the others.
Well, ultimately, any strong behavior, whether reactive behavior that's angry, those are things that you don't know what you will trigger in other people also.
That's true.
Right? I think the most important thing to have is really the sense
bedside
where
manner.
your bedside manner,
Yeah.
the higher moral ground
Correct.
when you address people, especially difficult ones as well.
It's tough. It's tough. I think you and I have been in situations like that, right? And sometimes
Well, anyone who has been a traffic warden in church, you will know, right?
in any parish for that matter.
That is true.
Yeah, that's a rite of passage for every warden. God bless you guys. So it does happen.
Yeah.
And the thing is this, sometimes we don't, and back to the spiritual moral aspects, you don't know what the other person is going through.
Yes.
It may be a case that this person is desperate to see the Holy Father for medical reasons, for spiritual, whatever reasons, right?
Yeah.
We don't know.
Correct.
And being denied maybe a view of him, the person gets agitated, right? So,
Yeah.
it's not easy. It takes years and to have a good understanding. But, the person on the other side of the table, so to speak, you really don't know what they're thinking.
Absolutely.
Right? And therefore, the only way to approach it is with kindness, with gentleness. How would have Jesus do it, right? I mean,
Exactly.
Okay, fine. People tell me he flipped tables, but
Yeah.
He did.
I mean, that was the extreme, right?
but he is God.
Okay.
God can flip tables. We cannot. Okay, so
Okay, no tables to flip in the
Yeah,
stadium.
there are many.
So I just want to ask you now, so going back to the papal mass, right? Can you share with us any, and for our listeners as well, who most probably, will be present at the papal mass, can you give us some practical tips of what to do when the faithful are at this papal mass?
I think there are many points, but let's start from approaching as transport, right? Let's
Right.
talk about coming into the stadium itself.
Yes.
I mean, and if you think about it, the stadium by then would be consecrated already as a place to have Holy Mass.
That's right.
As you come into the stadium for Mass, you are stepping out of the world and into the presence of God. It's slightly different, not the other way around.
Indeed.
right?
Indeed.
So
Yeah.
I think with that awareness, one can carry that as you come towards the stadium. At the same time, it's also good to point out that on the day itself, the gates will be opening fairly early.
12:30.
12:30 or so. And there will be security checks for sure.
Right.
Security is tight. We are in this current environment where there is a heightened security. So
That's
to
right.
speak.
A heightened sense
Yeah.
of security.
Yeah. So obviously come early, and also when you come, because some of the car parks will be closed for security reasons.
That's correct.
So if you can try to come through public transport, get someone to you can carpool, I suppose.
Yeah.
You can get someone to drop you off. But try not to come with your own transport, because I think it's going to be a huge jam outside. The road isn't very big outside, right?
Correct.
That's for starters. So public transport is key if you're able, or get someone to send you. Come early, of course. The gates open 12:30, 1 p.m., whatever.
Right.
And then there will be security checks by police, not us, okay?
Yes.
So our own security people will be standing at the back trying to maybe alleviate some difficulties or misunderstandings. But the police will be solely in charge of the X-ray machines, the
Back
walk-through
checks
metal
and all that.
detectors, and of course the back checks as well.
Yeah.
So you obviously don't want to bring big bags. That's one.
Okay.
You don't want to bring sharp objects.
No camping bags.
No camping. No travel site. I mean, bring as little as you can. This is a mass, Holy Mass, right? So
Right.
just bring as little as you can. You can bring water bottles, but they won't let you in with water inside. But
okay.
there will be, you bring in an empty water bottle, they'll let you inside the stadium. You can refill.
Are the metal ones allowed?
You can, not a
Okay.
problem. yeah?
Okay. Good. That's good.
Because once you have metal detectors, it's easy, right? And of course, what the other things not to bring really are the things that police even don't want to see. No, obviously no weapons, right? Obviously
Yeah.
no weapons, no knives, nothing sharp, not even scissors.
Yes.
Fruit knives, no. Okay.
Definitely not.
Even walking sticks you can bring. Long umbrella, no, unless it's used as a walking stick. It's got a sort of rubber cup.
That's right.
But no, anything that's pointy, sharp, that can be, you can imagine being used as a weapon, don't bring in. When in doubt, don't bring, right?
Yeah.
Even professional photography equipment also don't bring. Professional meaning those cameras with gigantic lenses and all
That's
that.
right. Unless you're an official photographer.
Yeah. Yeah. Personal mobility devices also cannot, right?
PMDs, right?
So we have to think about, because there's 50,000 people.
Yes.
So we have to do our part to make sure that the flow through is nice and smooth, and the people behind you can move along
Correct.
as well.
Right.
The other thing I want to add also is long umbrellas, as I've mentioned. Don't bring in.
That's
okay?
right.
You can bring the small collapsible ones. That's okay.
And if you don't have, they'll be sold.
Actually, I wanted to say, what's the first thing to do, right, when you come to the stadium? Go find the merchandising table.
Yeah, the souvenirs.
Yeah, because everything that the committee does, all the venues, all the setup, everything. And the stadium is the big chunk, of course.
Correct.
All these costs are paid for by donors, benefactors, sponsors. We've had to raise the money ourselves.
Indeed. Indeed.
Okay, so support. Buy merchandise.
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
And I think it's also nice because the t-shirts you can buy are all yellow.
That's
so
right.
imagine a sea of yellow coming in, right? And
That'll
that's
be beautiful.
the papal color, right?
Yeah. People ask, why yellow? They don't realize that it is actually the papal color.
Yeah, it's a papal color.
Yeah. So, and it's a nice yellow.
It is a nice yellow.
It's a yellow I will wear.
Yeah, well.
Okay.
I once saw, I just saw over the weekend, just trying to chill, right? So I saw an episode in James May in Italy.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's like a travel log, right?
Right, yes.
Yeah, so if you have massive glove, yellow is not the color to wear. Because he was wearing it. But anyway. I think there are many variations
Very
of the t-shirt, so it's okay.
That's true.
You don't like yellow, I think there's white as well.
Yes.
Yeah. One thing I must say though, other than the prohibited items, no sharp stuff, no long stuff,
yes.
Strollers, no, if you can. You probably have to park it somewhere. No food from outside, obviously, because
yes.
But one of the things that I do want us to be mindful of is things like banners. Got to be careful because what kind of messages are you putting on those banners as well?
Correct.
Your bags will be searched, obviously. So anything that's offensive, obviously, will be not admitted for
obvious reasons.
Obvious reasons, right?
Yes.
Of course, if you have children, you can bring milk powder, but approach a security member, and then they can manually, facilitate you in.
Correct.
Okay?
Correct.
Yeah. I suppose those are the things that we focus on bringing, right? And end of the day, it still is look around. Where is my place in this 50,000? How do I make things easier for the organizers, for each other as well? I mean, umbrellas are very obvious, because I don't want to poke somebody with it.
And I mean, the reason we are going to be there is really to worship together, right? And you meant what you said at the very beginning was really actually. We are actually stepping out of the world and into that space of the stadium, right?
Yeah.
And so there needs to be that sense of, sanctity and sacredness as well within that space. So that obviously there are certain things that we should not also be doing.
Well, I guess you don't.
In terms of, I think. The attire that we wear and stuff like that.
I was going to say that actually, but it's not really a security issue.
It's not a security issue.
Something you can prepare
actually,
for.
it's more of a propriety issue, right? So,
that's true.
I think one of the things to avoid is that we do know that when the Holy Father is present, one of the dress codes is that you don't wear all white when you are in personal audience with him.
That's right.
So one of the things that we suggest, being into the stadium itself is don't wear all white, lah. In fact, go and buy a t-shirt and you have white and yellow, right? Yeah, that's right. Of course, the other thing is we notice is that dress code.
Yeah.
Obviously, no slippers, nothing sloppy. This is the Holy Mass.
Yes.
It's as holy as they come, right? The Holy Father present.
Correct.
So obviously, if you're a lady, don't have exposed shoulders, exposed knees. Definitely no shorts for men and women.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Can I really hear the complaints because it's gonna be hot.
Well, it's not that bad, There's aircon venting below.
There is a
seat.
venting
Okay. So
system there.
It's
also, one of the souvenirs is a fan, portable fan. So if it's really hot,
somebody's really checked out the money.
Yeah, so
of
fan,
course.
Buy the fan, buy the t-shirt. You might as well buy the water tumbler also.
Correct. Yes, I was about to say that too. Keep yourself
Might
hydrated.
as well.
Yeah.
Might as well.
Well, of course, if we had our way, right? We will max out the aircon in the if there's aircon in the stadium, right? Until I was just, Father Paul Holy Trinity Church when the church first came out in Tampines, right? I used to stay around there, so of course I used to go to Holy Trinity.
Okay.
And I used to ask Father Paul. I said, "Hey, Father, why's the aircon always so cold? Everything's freezing and just condensation outside the windows, for morning mass. For even the late morning mass.
Morning mass.
wow.
Late morning.
Yeah.
My
Then he typical Father Paul Day, right? God bless him.
God bless
He
you.
leans over, he looks at me, he says, "Do you see any girl wearing spaghetti strap?" Then I said no. Yeah. Then he said, yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So he maxes out aircon, everybody freezes. You better get dressed. Okay.
I think that's quite smart.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So I mean, I think end of the day is it boils down to that sense of awareness again.
Yeah.
Where how much space we occupy in this universe.
Yes.
I was
Yes.
thinking of in preparing for this, I already knew that you're going to ask me some of the spiritual questions related to spirituality. There is one that is interesting. Father Reginald Garrigou-Lagrange, the late 1800s Dominican.
Okay.
He's got many good books on spiritual theology. In fact, his writings influenced the writings of Lumen Gentium.
Oh, really?
Oh.
In the sense that we, being the light of the world,
Yes.
form the community that manifests itself as the holiness of the church. So how we act and think and do as a community actually manifests God's grace corporally on this earth, right? He talks about the 3 ages of the spiritual life. And in fact, this is one where everybody needs to go through if you are to find union with God. And I'll just put it very simply. The first phase of life, the first age, he calls it, is the way of the purgative way.
Right.
You purge yourself of selfishness, basically.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part. Many people don't escape that part. And, you find ways to come closer to God, the realization, right? That's the struggle we face. And
Yeah.
there are obviously periods of dryness and all that. And then you move to the second way, which is the illuminative way, where you start seeking, longing for God. The dryness doesn't go away, by the way. It
Yeah.
never does.
Correct. I mean, Mother Teresa.
50 years, yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
It
never does.
Yeah.
But in the illuminative way, one seeks techniques, methods to come closer to Him. So one will start looking for ways of meditation, contemplation, understanding of the Scripture, loving the Scripture. The Psalms, especially this.
Yes.
Or hidden gem of the church.
Absolutely.
Even the other hidden gem of the church is the writings of the early church fathers.
Indeed.
That illuminative way
Yeah.
gives way one day to the unitive way where you have union with God. And on this earth, it's impossible because we don't have the veil of the knowledge of good and evil lifted from us, right?
And that is the original sin.
That came from original sin. And in fact, that's a protective mechanism that God actually in His mercy gave us. Because with this veil of not knowing goodness or good and bad totally, right? We will never be in a position to say, God, I do not love you, and then it becomes final. You see? So where there is no love, there is evil. There's privation of good or love, there's evil, and then you end up in a state where the fallen angels were.
Correct.
Which is horrible. I think they suffer.
Yeah.
know?
Being separated from God.
They suffer. And that's why they're driven insane, right?
Exactly.
So, long story short, this 3 ages of the interior life leads us to hopefully, and along the way rather, that heightened sense of awareness, our place in the universe, how much space we take up. And once we are aware of how much space we take up, that self-awareness, right? More and more, gradually through the years, you start to give up more of your wants. And you start looking at the focus on the other.
Yeah.
Right. So this is the thing that we can take to the stadium for Holy Mass as we are about to step into this sacred space out of the world, right? What do we take on the way in?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's going to be very chaotic, obviously.
Yeah.
I
No
think
doubt.
it'll be a joyful time.
A joyful chaos.
But chaotic because I think people will forget themselves sometimes. But what you said, and hopefully, dear sisters and brothers, during this, we've got about a month still for us to really prepare ourselves for this wonderful gathering of more than 40,000 of us together. Right? Really coming into a single place together, and to worship the Lord with the Vicar of Christ in our midst. That'll be a very powerful sign.
Andre, were you there 38 years ago?
I was.
Yeah.
So was I.
I was.
I was much younger then.
Yeah. Yes, that's right.
And I was actually researching trying to find YouTube videos on the footage
Ooh.
38 years ago when
Right.
JP2 was here, right? On the security configuration, the motorcade.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Wow.
And as I was looking, I saw this boy in the Catholic high uniform jumping up and down. And I realized that spectacle looks very familiar. I think it's mine. I think, it was me.
Yeah.
Jumping around. And then, in the as you can see the footage, this boy trying to sort of chase after the people.
You are very lucky that you are here today.
By God's grace, right? Really by God's grace. And how much more at the end of our lives when we think back, I suppose it's going to be a live review, right? And then we think back, all those moments where people have loved us.
Indeed.
We didn't know.
Yeah.
Someone prayed for us, someone fasted for us. I tell you, you will cry from joy.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Kev, thank you so much for being with us. So, dear sisters and brothers, once again, you'll be wondering about what is all of this that we're talking about and what has it got to do with safety and security? Actually, it's got everything to do with safety and security. If you think about it, safety and security is really us caring for ourselves, but most of all, caring for one another. It's always that question, right? Who is my neighbor?
And of course, also wanting to outdo each other in generosity.
Indeed, indeed, and really that would be hopefully the time when you see people helping those with babies and kids, in arms. Someone maybe helping with the pram or with the bag of milk and powder and what have you.
Yeah, but
and
why stop there, you see?
Yeah, why stop
Because
there?
after the stadium is over, everyone's high, I suppose. Where do you go from there? Right?
That's true.
So
That's
have to
true.
think about, it's not, the stadium, I guess you can take it as a microcosm for life.
Yes.
So the mass is over, everyone's happy.
Mm-hmm.
And do stay for I guess we will urge your audience to stay for the mass event.
The post-mass program.
We've got a fantastic singer.
Yes.
I won't say who.
Yeah.
And I will go to St. Joseph's Church downtown
Right.
Sunday evening just to sometimes hear her sing.
Ah,
And where do you go from here after that?
correct.
It's not just the stadium.
No, it shouldn't stop there.
It should be, where do you take this sense of wanting to serve or give back to your parish and then what do you do after that, right?
Correct.
So if and this is a shameless plug for safety and security. So if one feels tempted to serve in safety and security, in medical, in fire
That's right.
response, and in your own parish, then go seek out. Every parish has an emergency preparedness task force. Go seek out the leaders there and offer to volunteer.
Indeed.
And you get training.
Indeed.
you get training.
Indeed. So that's something actually we can talk about after the Papal Mass. But really, thank you, Kev, so much for being with us today. Kevin is the co-chair of the Security Subcommittee for the Pope Francis visit here in Singapore, and he's the immediate past chairman of the Archdiocesan Emergency Response Operations Council. And Kev has, of course, shared with us some really very practical tips for us to be safe, to look after ourselves, but also to look after those who are around us.
Yep. And as always, a reminder, if you're listening to us on our live stream, the Faith Perspective goes out every fortnight on Tuesday mornings at 8:30 a.m. So the encore is also on the same day, 8 p.m. Again tomorrow, Wednesday at 5 p.m. and Thursdays at 2:10 p.m. If you'd like to catch up on this interview and others, because we've got other programs also in store for you as you prepare yourself, listen to our podcast on Catholic SG Radio app, Spotify, or on Apple.
Absolutely. So this is one of a series of the Pope Francis visit here as we prepare for the Holy Father to come and share it also with others whom you may think might be going to the stadium as well, and who might want to find ways of how to be prepared for that particular situation. So once again, thank you so much. You can also watch this video on the Archdiocese YouTube channel. Thank you so much, brothers and sisters. You take care. God bless you all, and hopefully we see you all at the stadium. Bye-bye.
Bye.